call the meeting to order. I'll rise for the pledge of allegiance. Mr. McDowell, would you care to lead us in the pledge of allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Wheeler, would you give the invocation, please?
I will. Please pray with me. Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for this group of people who give them their time and service to this community. Please let them be mindful of the needs of the community when we make our decisions. In Jesus' name. Amen.
All right, in your packets, we have the minutes from the previous meeting dated November 4th, 2014. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Wait one moment. Mr. Palmer there will be a correction to the minutes. Printed it off and I didn't do it. It's got to do with under the unfinished business. He said he had brought up about only spending half, not 170. So the minutes next month will reflect that.
All right. So there's a correction within the unfinished business section.
They've changed it 70 to 85, right?
That's correct. Everybody hear that?
Yep.
Okay. Reflecting that change, is there a motion to approve the minutes as
So done.
second? Second. Any other changes? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Now we've got to come up to voting on the James Westbrook property.
This is a rezoning that requires an ordinance. You all have the ordinance in front of you. The first reading of the ordinance is an ordinance rezoning a certain parcel from R1 single-family residential to B2 general business, a part of the northeast quarter of the northwest quarter of Section 1, Township 18 North, Range 9 East in the city of Kennett, Duncan County, Missouri. We had a public hearing on this property 2 weeks ago. And this was, came through the Planning and Zoning Commission with a recommendation to approve.
Do we know what he's gonna do with the property?
We need to have a motion first before we
Motion.
motion, second, and now it's time for discussion.
He said he's put in some mini storages, didn't
Is there any complaints from any of the people in the neighborhood?
he? Not like last time.
Yeah, there were no, to my knowledge, there were no written complaints, no written protests.
I haven't heard anything.
Any other questions?
What's it? 1009, where's the parking?
That's along Buffalo Ditch, right behind Gibson's.
Oh, okay, that open lot there.
That open lot on the south side of Second Street.
And that's
There's
close
two
proximity.
buildings.
Yeah, there's close proximity to other business anyway.
Yeah, there's B2 right across the street.
Is there a motion to approve, well, we already got a motion before. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
Second reading, an ordinance rezoning a certain parcel from R1 single-family residential to B2 general business, a part of the northeast quarter of the northwest quarter of Section 1, Township 18 North, Range 9 East in the city of Kennett, Duncan County, Missouri.
Is there a motion to approve this ordinance?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion. This will be a roll call vote, and we'll start at the left side of the room this evening.
Yes.
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 Motion passes. Okay. We have no new business to discuss. We'll move on into unfinished business.
I don't know.
Street committee, repair, or plan,
Well, we
work in progress.
work in progress, we kind of held off, Mr. Carter's had a lot on his plate, so we've not had a street committee meeting, but we will have it for the next council meeting.
All right.
But give him time to get caught up on his project.
All right, then we'll just move on into mayor's report, and I'd like to just dedicate this time for, this is our second meeting of the month. Financial information is in your packets. Doing a quick, I don't know if you all had an opportunity to explore the numbers, but what I've come up looking at is we have all the departments are in line for the year to date, except for animal control. They are $3,000 over budget. And police department is $59,371 over budget. Now, you gotta take consideration the insurance expense is still at zero. So you've gotta factor in the insurance cost, which for your own number in there, say your little addition, the insurance cost for the PD would be $47,333. So you add that to your expenses, year-to-date expenses, and that gives you the total of $59,371 over budget. Same goes with animal control. Adding that same insurance expense to all the other departments, we are at or below budget. But it is concerning the amount that we are going over budget in a couple departments. It's about the same conversation we had this time last year. So I think it's worth discussing. One proposal I believe that I would recommend to the council is to, well, you all know, you all made the budget. Every dollar we had allocated is assigned to either a department or expense. So one, we either got to plug, I'm just going to use round numbers, $63,000 from someone else's budget, or we're going to have to pull out the reserve to fill in that gap. But that has to be decided on fairly quickly by the council. Talking about this evening necessarily as much as but soon.
Is it the overtime with PD, is that what's still causing a lot of it? Is the shortages being short on manpower?
Until I get the 3 officers, probably the middle of next month, I'll get my final report before I can kick those loose. Dispatches took care of now. I'm running without having to train anybody right now, so that should be getting back in line. But the rest of us, until I can just get these other 3 trained, had 4 people on vacation in November, December. You know, people's trying to get the rest of their vacations taken, so. And we still got one on the sick days, or vacation days, still got one out.
Also, I'd not mention, there's been several activities that's required law enforcement security. There's several coming down the pike, so, I mean, some of it is just community, I guess you might say, community events that take place. And, we had fair in September, in that month, and then, October wasn't too bad on us.
Actually, the police department had a significant reduction in October versus September. We're still on the budget, but we're still reduced the deficit significantly.
Would it be okay to pull some out of reserve to help cover them for their shortages, because they are short on manpower, and they are, as some unexpected things go on, if they don't plan for it, they can't see it coming, it takes up a lot of extra manpower. Maybe we might need to help their budget out with this. It's just some things they can't plan for. How much do we have?
We have $24,044. Just under half. Like I said, we had I don't think we built any excess. We built in a reserve fund to be built, but it's not in. So it's either gonna have to be plucked from another department, or it's gonna have to be, well, that's, I don't know what else you can do right now.
There's one bright spot, the revenue is exceeding budget, for simple.
But I think a lot of that has to do with the last budget's billing, if that makes sense. Like the housing authority, we got paid for a good chunk of last year's housing authority bill. So those numbers are kind of misinformed, kind of,
Did we get all that money?
we got all that we billed.
When I look at all the budgets, not just those mentioned, our employee insurance expense is greater right now. Right now, we're 4 months, so we should be at about 33% or so.
Well,
So-
we accidentally paid 2 bills, and we didn't know that, we got a bill that came, it looked like it was due, but Krista said we should only do 1 bill a month.
Okay.
So
I mean,
that's what part of the
when I
problem
look
is.
at that, it's showing a greater percent.
So what's the overages on the animal control department? Is that overtime as well?
Salary.
It's overtime.
And when you do salaries, then you raise social security, which is down there as well. And then, well, we're okay in retirement expense, but all of it kind of coincides. I mean, it's a 24/7, 365 days a year. Someone has to be at that building to clean up. Because inadvertently, the day you don't, the next day you get a surprise visit that you wouldn't expect. I mean, it just works that way. And, they had asked for an additional person, either full-time or part-time, but wasn't able to budget it. At one time, there was, wasn't it 3 people that worked or was it 2.5?
You had 3 full-time, 1 part-time.
In animal control,
Yeah.
it's been a long time.
Yeah,
It's been a long time. So, I mean, we've dropped down, but we're still.
Any more thought or discussion?
Are you saying on the insurance, did you pay every department twice, or just, okay, so,
Yeah, all the
Okay.
insurance just needs to be overlooked this time. Not the Myrna insurance,
no,
but,
then, the health,
I had a discussion with Diane, there's a couple of things showing up, if you look at the overall report here. We've got salaries for the park department and the pool department, showing up in this report. There's nothing budgeted in there. Those monies were set aside in the budgeting process for the park department, out of sales tax too. But their salaries are showing up in here, so if you look at that bottom line, park department's $28,000 so far for the year, and the pool is $3,900. And that's not a budgeted item, I don't think belongs in this report. I think they probably have their own report. Salary should be in their report.
Well, the salaries, well, I believe it's been done in the past, it's reimbursed dollar for dollar, whatever expenses. This is counting method, park board writes a check to the city of Kennett for the salaries.
Yeah, but when you're looking, comparing expenses to budget, you got the expenses, but nothing shows up in the budget.
Yeah, that's,
So
as far as that.
It gives you a distorted picture, and that's significant money.
Park department, what else?
Pool.
Pool department.
Swim budget.
See, Bob, you were talking about the monthly on the PD, it's like this past month here, we're almost about 18,000 over. But it's been, you gotta factor in the insurance cost every month. Which that insurance is 11.8.
We still have,
So that's, it looks so bad on the paperwork till you get the,
I don't have time today to pull Myrna out, but I know it's out there.
yeah, that's what we all gotta keep in mind is that insurance cost says 0 year to date. That means we still gotta pay it though. So you can just plug in that. But you look down, you see anything that's over 33%, 30 years behind us, anything over 33%, it's overpaid.
I will say one thing, and I don't know that Crystal done it, but I'll get to Diane. If you look at night shift bonuses, it's only 3605 is what I figured in the budget, but we're not seeing anything taken out of it. People are working nights, we probably just need to combine that with salaries. So that money is coming out of the salary category.
Somebody mentioned a while ago that housing authority got reimbursed, so they paid the money back to the city. Where did that money go back to the city, to the police department?
General revenue,
Why does that go back to the general revenue?
because the police department's budget comes from general revenue.
The housing authority not paid out of the police department budget instead of salaries? I mean, do you have to figure for that? Then shouldn't that money go back into your
the
budget?
computer program could not handle breaking down the housing authority employees separately.
But I went back over here a while ago, what we got reimbursed, like $113,000, is that right? From the housing
That's
authority?
correct.
If you put that money back into their budget, that helps them.
Well, it is, because that 119 does, that's what it's back in anyway, it's revenue. I mean, it's not helping or hurting anything.
It's supposed to wash out.
It washes out.
Because we get reimbursed for what,
But they don't pay it out of their budget.
But we haven't been reimbursed for this year. When's that reimbursement go through? You said that they got part of it.
Every quarter is when, in the history, past history, police
Except
clerks,
we got to bill them for several times.
last budget, yes, sir.
Right, and so, all right, where are we in this quarter? They paid us through,
First quarters.
they paid us through August. July, August, September, paid us through September. So we just now get that check?
That's what you had to help me with. You might not know just yet either.
yeah, I don't know when we got it, Roger. I'd have
I mean,
to look it up.
you know, we're in October, November, so we paid those salaries.
Mhm.
for the guys that are working at the housing authority. And yet, we're being saying we're over budget because we paid their salaries. And yet, we have not been reimbursed by the housing authority for October, November, whatever.
No, we're over budget by expense. The budget revenue is still there. The expense side is what's over budget.
That's what I'm saying, but we paid salaries to those guys that work in the housing authority, right?
Yes, sir.
But we haven't been reimbursed for it
Yes, sir.
in October.
Mhm.
So that's gonna be reflected here as being way over budget.
Well, not necessarily, because I'm not looking at profit. We're not looking at profit, we're looking at expense only. The expense,
That's an expense.
That's an expense.
Salary's an
That,
expense.
but if we get it reimbursed for that expense, it's gonna help wash out with the.
it will not change the expenses. When you're going over your line item expense,
We got reimbursed, whatever much it is. Look at the report, right now, they're sitting at 79.9% of budget on the revenue. So this is way ahead of the projected revenue.
If the 79 point something on the revenue, but how much of that revenue, how much of that money came in from last year's budget?
most of
A
it.
lot, see? And so, we're saying, I don't, our system's so screwed up. How do you keep up with anything?
That was budgeted as part of the revenue stream because historically, there's always a lag from the expense to you actually get the money. But that was budgeted as part of the revenue stream. So the money's there. Actually, the check they apparently just got in, they were way behind and it kicked it up way over if you just compare it to the budget for revenue. Of course, the next couple of months, we won't get anything, I'm sure, so those numbers are gonna start turning down again.
So, Mr. Wheeler, we're supposed to be able to spend $405,000 in expenses for the PD up till, November 1. We spent $464,000. No matter if we got paid $300,000 from a revenue source or not, the expense is still there.
Right.
Their salary's not part of the expense.
Their salary is part of the expense, but their salary was the expense was factored into their budget.
But what I'm asking is, money, they're having to pay that salary out of their budget.
That's correct.
That's correct. But now when housing authority reimburses the city, where's that money go? If it goes back into general revenue, then they're not getting reimbursed for what they should be.
Well, they're paying their guys through the general revenue that goes to the PD.
They're getting reimbursed
They're getting
because it's a budget item.
Oh,
This is
their salary's
budgeted.
not paid out.
That's where they get the
All
money.
salaries are paid out of general revenue.
Okay, okay, that's what I was asking, that's where I was getting at.
It's just broken down in departments just for accountability.
Okay. That's what I was getting, at. That's what I wasn't clear on.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Anything else on the subject?
Did we not do something about the telephone? I don't understand the telephone bill.
It has been, it's been changed, and
To what?
Ms. Reisner, you wanna,
That was the next thing to try to get checked out today. Our software guys were able to go in and take the telephone from the last budget and put it up in general administration. So that took care of why previous to this, telephone was 200 and something %. But I believe this is actual for now, but I do need to double check it.
So apparently we didn't budget enough for the telephone?
Well, we knew it was changing, and we just really didn't know what. We got a bill this week, and it was about $2,700, but that was for all the departments.
We're officially on the new way now. All the old AT&T bills are over with. So,
But is your bill still gonna be $3,000 a month?
no, we're talking about whole city now, instead of each department, like ours would run 800 or 900 or 1,000 sometimes, and everybody else's was just, in between.
So we've gotta
It's
do
all
some
one
more
figure
work
now,
on
and there's no long
telephone.
distance.
But it shows you the police department telephone bill is $3,360. Why was their phone bill?
Well, we're still gonna have to do some work on it, because that might be part of AT&T.
That's what I'm saying. we've been being, new way, we just, as far as the police department and most of the departments, got online 2 months ago. So we were paying the high AT&T bills just up until Tuesday, because that's where your expense. And now you'll see it dropping gradually, because we're through with the AT&T. It was not budgeted, I think it was just budgeted for like 50 a phone or whatever, and it should have been left on the AT&T on their regular billing until we got it off on New White's billing. That's where the great big divide was.
Okay, is there any action by the council? Since not any, guess we'll move on.
We
Yes,
got
sir.
all the procedures we have in the last few months.
Yes, sir. That's, where, I guess, next step on that procedure though is where we're gonna plug this money from. Because we need to go ahead and amend someone else's budget, pull out what we overspent.
I guess we got two choices. We can either reallocate monies that are already budgeted, or we can take a look at the revenue stream, which, for the first 4 months, our budget's about $360,000, and, year to date, it's over 600, part of that's the 120 that came in from the housing authority, it's still 480 versus 360. So we've got about $100,000+ over on the revenue stream. So it's either allocate that monies, or, what I'm proposing, we have got two members, or three members, now we got Steve. First of the year, we have a budget meeting and look at reallocation for 6 months, 5 months. If the departments haven't used the money that's been budgeted on a one-shot basis, not the future, forever, but see where we've got excess monies and reallocate them to cover these overages we have.
We knew we were gonna have to do that anyway when we did this budget, because the numbers were everywhere. And, we knew we were gonna have to tweak it at some point.
Right. And we keep saying this every meeting, but I think we're a little closer right now on the numbers than we had been. I know I worked with Diane and tuned up several things and corrected them. We haven't got none corrected yet. But I think the numbers are a lot closer than they were. I hate to go in and take bad numbers and start jockeying them around. That's where they have something with confidence in.
So what are you recommending, Bob?
So right now, if everything else going on, I'd say, let's get through December and January, we do budget. We can defer that to our next chair.
So what do y'all want to do? What's the motion on, is there a motion on the floor?
My numbers and your numbers are a little bit different here, but for the month of October, I showed 4 departments over budget. I had animal control at 387, fire 4637, general administrative 1366, police department 6058. What we've done the last 3 months, we've approved these overages. We didn't say where the monies were going to come from, we did approve the overages.
I did the year to date, is what I was looking at for the third of the year.
And that changed the picture, but we've been doing it on a monthly basis. So at this point, I'd make a motion that we approve these 4 departments' overages.
Second.
There's a motion on the floor to approve the over budget departments for the month of October. And there has been a second. Now it's time for discussion.
No, still back, you said month of October?
Month of October.
Okay. Because he said he was based on his on the
He's
quarter.
taking year to date.
That's October.
I've worked out year to date, but there's only 2 departments, animal control and police department over year to date. We've given and the months are gonna vary.
Yeah.
Well, there's items in here like training. If there's a month where we send a bunch of people training, we're at 54.2